units down, so you can put y equals -2. There is no reflection, so you could put plus. The amplitude, it goes from -2 to +2, so that's a 4. The period is 2 pi, so b is 1, and there is no phase shift, so just x. Number 7, there is a vertical translation of +1, 1 up. There is no reflection, so I could put a plus. The amplitude is 1, so I could put sine because a is 1. The period is 4 pi. Okay, so 2 pi over b equals 4 pi. So when you solve for b, you end up with b equals 2 pi over 4 pi, which is a half. Okay, for number 8, you have, let's see, amplitude. Well, first off, you have a vertical translation of 1, so y equals 1. The part I highlighted, the period I highlighted, has no reflection, so I'm going to put a plus. The amplitude goes from +1 to 6, so the amplitude is 5. The period, let's see, from -pi/2 to +3pi/2, that's 4pi/2, which is 2 pi. So it's a normal period, so x. It did shift over to the left, pi/2 units. So I'm going to put plus pi/2, like that. Alright, so for numbers, for the rest of them, we're doing cosine graphs, cosine equations. And so I highlighted the cosine curve that I'm going to focus on for, to analyze. So amplitude here is 1. There is no vertical translation. There is a phase shift. And the period is 2 pi. Okay? Because it starts here and ends here. So this is -pi/4 and this is 7pi/4. So the total distance from here to here is 2 pi. Okay? So we're going to write y equals, amplitude is 1, so it's cosine. Period is 2 pi, so b is 1. And then it's shifted to the left, so we're going to put plus pi/4. Okay, because that's that point right there, halfway between 0 and -pi/2. For number 10, there is a vertical translation of 3 units. The period is 2 pi, and the amplitude is 2, and there is no reflection, so it's y equals 2 for the amplitude, cosine, period is 2 pi, so it's x plus 3, because that's a vertical shift. Alright, so for number 9, there's a vertical translation of 1 unit down, so we could put the -1. Now sometimes I put it at the end, right here, and sometimes I put it in the front. It doesn't matter where you write it down, okay, as long as you write it down. So -1, there is no reflection, so I could put a plus. Now the amplitude, it's from here to here. Now this is 1 unit, so this is like half, and then again you could tell here it's a half, so it's going to be a half, 1/2 cosine. The period is 2 pi, and one way to think about it is you could think of the sine curve. It ends at 2 pi, right? Because here, it's hard to tell where it ends. So just think of a sine curve. I know we're writing a cosine, but it's the same. The period would be the same for one or the other. So this is 1 cycle of sine, 2 pi. So b is 1. So I put x. And then there's a translation to the right. So I put minus pi/2. Okay? For number 12, the amplitude is 4. And there is no vertical translation, so I could just go ahead and write, and there's no reflection, so I could put 4 cosine. The period for this, we go from, now it's hard, let me point it out. You don't know exactly where it lands, right, just by looking at this mark. So what I do is look at the sine function, So it goes from negative pi over 2, because every tick mark here is a pi. So negative pi over 2 all the way to 5.5 pi. So that's a total of 5.5 plus a half, it's a total of 6 pi for one period. So 2 pi over b is 6 pi, so b equals 1/3, because you do 2 pi over 6 pi, 1/3. So it's going to be 1/3 x. Now it's shifted to the right, pi units, so you're going to put minus pi. You can write it like that, or you can write it with the b inside by distributing. So 1/3 x minus pi over 3. So either one's fine. Okay, so number 13, you have a vertical translation of -2. Again, you look at the highest point and the lowest point, and you find the halfway, the midpoint between those two values. So the highest point here is at 2, the lowest is at -6. So halfway between -2 and +2 and -6 is -2. Okay, so that's where you draw the horizontal asymptote. So we have y equals -2. There is no reflection, so it's a plus. Now the amplitude from -2 to +2, that's 4. And there is no horizontal translation, but there is a period of pi over 2. That's how long it takes to complete one cycle here. So 2 pi over b equals pi over 2. So then that means that b is 4. Okay, because you cross multiply right here. So pi b equals 4 pi, divide by pi, divide by pi, and b and the pi's cancel, so you get 4. Number 14. There is a reflection. There is also a vertical translation of +1. So I'm going to go ahead and write that in first. So y. Now there is a reflection because notice I'm starting from the bottom right here. So it's going to be minus. Now the amplitude is from 1 to 3, so that's an amplitude of 2. Cosine. The period here is pi units. So 2 pi over b equals pi. So b is 2. And there is no horizontal translation, so 2x. Okay, number 15. There is no vertical translation. The period is, and again, if you're not so sure how to calculate it, because this one ends like kind of, there's nothing marked here on the axis, so it's hard to read that. So what I do sometimes is just look at half a period. So I could take this curve right here and see how long that is, and then just double it. Because this is half a period of sine or cosine. This is half. So from -pi to 1/2 pi, that's 1.5. If you double 1.5, you get 3 pi. So this is 3 pi from here to here. Okay, that's 3 pi. So the period is 3 pi. So 2 pi over b equals 3 pi. That means b is 2/3, because you divide 2 pi by 3 pi. You get 2/3. There is a horizontal translation right here of -pi over 2. So you're going to write, and the amplitude is 2. For every line is 2, so it goes halfway between 4 and 6, so it's 5. So y equals 5 cosine, period is 2/3, and there's a translation to the left, so we're going to put plus pi over 2. And that's okay. But you could also distribute the 2/3, and you get y equals 5 cosine 2/3 x plus, when you distribute the 2/3 with the pi over 2, you get pi over 3. For number 16, they ask you to use a sine graph. Okay? So it's sine. We're going back to sine on that one. Going from +9, which is the maximum, to -3, which is the minimum. Halfway between that, 9 and 3 is 12, so it's 6 units, right? So 9 minus 6 is 3, and that's why you have the dotted line on 3, on y equals 3. Here's one period, one cycle of sine. The amplitude, again, is 6. From here to here is 6. The period is pi over 2, so 2 pi over b equals pi over 2, so then you get 4 pi equals pi b, so b is 4. And there is no reflection and there is no horizontal shift, so we're going to put y equals, it went up 3 units, plus, what was the amplitude, 6, sine 4x, and that's it.